Now, it seems where you live can have a dramatic influence on your life expectancy. Latest figures released by the Office of National Statistics show the variation across England and Wales can be up to 20 years. Denbighshire in Wales has been one of the lowest life expectancies for men and women. The ward of Rhyl West has an expectancy of 74.5 years for women and just over 68 for men. Bloomfield in Blackpool is the lowest in the country at 68.2 years for men. Contrast that with the highest figures. Men in Knightsbridge and Belgravia in Westminster can expect to live to just over 89. And women in Dullingham Village in East Cambridgeshire to 97. Well, joining me shortly in the studio will be the Labour MP Chris Ruan, who represents Rhyl West, which has one of the lowest life expectancy rates. And from Parliament's central lobby is the Conservative MP Vicky Ford. Vicky Ford, welcome to the programme. What do you make, first of all, of the disparity between the highest and lowest parts of England and Wales in terms of expectancy?
Well, clearly there is an issue and we do need to address that difference in life expectancy in different communities. But it is because of a number of different factors. There's obviously health issues, which are a number of complex issues which the government is already working on, as well as income differentials. And the good news is that actually income inequality is much lower now than it was under the past Labour government, for example. So the health inequality issues, that's about addressing things like childhood obesity and diabetes and cancer survival, and those are all issues that the government is taking action on.
Right, but it should have taken action by now. I mean, 20 years is a massive difference between parts of England and Wales with the lowest and highest life expectancy rates, and it is a Conservative government that has been in charge of the things you've just talked about since 2010.
These issues take time to address because obviously what happens at the end of life is affected by what happened as one was a child and growing up. So, as I said, issues like the health differentials, issues like tackling smoking, tackling childhood obesity, those are all issues which the government has focused on and is delivering results on. And as I said, the income inequality is a key issue. Why is income inequality getting better? Is because the government has managed to help more people back into work. 3 million more jobs, 880,000 fewer families without work.
Right,
and putting people in real jobs with more money in their pockets helps healthier living.
Right. Chris Ruan, welcome to the Daily Politics. As we've seen, your constituency, Vale of Clwyd, includes the ward of Rhyl West, which we mentioned it has one of the lowest life expectancies for men and women. Why?
Well, it's funny that the two areas that you've highlighted were two seaside towns, Rhyl in Wales and Blackpool in England. And what you have seen in England is because of the benefits cap, bedroom tax, universal credit, people, as Boris Johnson said, have been socially cleansed from the areas that they lived in the cities, and many of them have fled to coastal towns. And you've seen a concentration in specific wards of coastal towns, which have had brought the life expectancy down for those towns. If I can just say, you've hit on two constituencies or two or three constituencies here. There is a wider picture here across the United Kingdom, and I put a parliamentary question down some 6 weeks ago. The answer was given to me last night. It's been placed in the House of Commons library today, which is very prescient because it's International Women's Day, and the figures for England are that 22% of women at age 65 have seen a decline in their life expectancy since 2010. Since 1840, life expectancy has gone up. 2010, it stopped.
Right. Well, that is shocking, isn't it, Vicky Ford?
So life expectancy is actually increasing across the country.
Right,
and
but take that figure. We'll take the figure that Chris has just used about women over 65.
Women over 65 in 20% of the local authority areas in England have witnessed a decline in life expectancy.
And that's since 2010, when the Conservatives came into government in coalition, and that is the first time there's been a decline like that.
Well, as I said, one of the key issues that we've been focusing on is improving the inequalities, narrowing that gap. There's actually been a 33% improvement on the ratio of inequalities, income inequalities, so that's a really important.
I know, but you keep talking about the income inequalities,
well.
but even if income inequality, as you have stated it, has been reduced, why are these differences so marked in areas that are deprived? I mean, it cannot be rocket science to work out that, funnily enough, the low life expectancy rates are at their highest in areas that are most deprived across England and Wales.
A key thing that one has been doing, and it does take time for this to feed through, is to help more people into jobs, make sure that actually they keep more of their pay in order to help have healthier lifestyles, and back that up with actions on areas like diabetes, like childhood obesity, like smoking, which hit life expectancy.
Okay.
And those have all been the priorities of the government.
Right, Miata, do you agree? I mean, is income and having a job clearly important in terms of being in work and earning money? But what do you take away from these figures on life expectancy?
So the figures are staggering. The fact that they're going backward, I think, is incredibly worrying. And I think
in certain areas, not all areas.
In certain areas, but I think it's indicative of a bigger problem, which is that, you know, for many people, the economy isn't just working. We've had a decade of wage stagnation and more to come. For many people, they've seen a squeeze in their living standards. We're seeing huge inequality across the country, where actually a lot of the recovery we've seen since the financial crisis has been in London and the South East, and other parts of the countries haven't benefited. So there are deep structural problems. And in some, and the figures that you're seeing on life expectancy, healthy life expectancy, are indication of the fact that for big chunks of our population, they are just struggling, and they're struggling to get on, and they're struggling to feed their kids, and it's filtering through into these figures.
Right. I mean, Chris, what about the lifestyle choices? Because smoking, drinking, diet, all of these are also indicators, clearly, of a shortening life.
Absolutely, but why is it happening in certain nations and regions in the United Kingdom and not in others? I'll give you the other stats, right? In Wales and Northern Ireland, only 18% of local authorities have witnessed a decline. In Scotland, it's 6%. In the northeast of England, it's 27%. These are huge disparities, and I think devolution is working. Where control is nearer the people, you're seeing better outcomes. And when you've got kinder governments, not right-wing nasty governments who have promised, they've given us 8 years austerity and promised us another 10 years of austerity, and now the chickens are coming home to roost. And we're seeing in these statistics that it's not people are dying early, and it's mainly women. On International Women's Day, it's mainly women that are dying early because of conservative policies.
Right. Is austerity to blame, Vicky?
No, it is absolutely about looking at the issues that affect our health and our life expectancy, and it is International Women's Day, and that is why one of the things we are championing is a number of actions to help women's health. That's things like actions on cervical cancer, on breast cancer, the announcements just a few days ago about surgical mesh and other issues that have affected women, and this, and as well as access to mental health, all of which are priorities of this government, led from the very top by our Conservative woman Prime Minister, who's focusing on these issues that affect women's health.
What impact do you think austerity has had then on poorer parts of the communities across England and Wales? There has been, as you know, years of a squeeze, rightly or wrongly, on health and social security budgets. Do you accept that that must have had an impact on those communities where there are more people on benefits than other parts of the country?
Actually, our health budgets in England have continued to rise continually, and more money is going to those that need it. That is why the government has focused on making sure that people, especially on lower incomes, have got more money in their pockets. With 3 million people taken out of tax altogether, the national minimum wage, 3 million more jobs, and as I said, 880,000 fewer families without work. That is children better off because their families are working.
Okay,
so I think the difficulty is you can reel off the stats, but that's not what people are feeling. And people are struggling. They are feeling worse off. You see it up and down the country. And I think the question about devolution is quite an interesting one, because the capacity of our local government, our community groups to actually try and solve some of these problems, I think is massively constrained. And that's one of the areas where actually we can take action to give them the power and resources to try and act now.
Right.
But the truth is people are struggling. And they're not feeling the benefits that you're talking in the headline stats. So that is not their experience.
What would you do? Would an increase in wages make a big difference?
An increase in wages is an important part of that, but to do that, you've got to think about how we boost wages, for example, in our low-wage, low-skilled parts of the economy. That's about a proper active industrial strategy, but that's also about the power balance in the labour market. So ensuring that actually workers have more power so they can have more secure jobs, but that they can actually argue that more of the benefits of the work that they do go to them as wages rather than to shareholders.
I'm sorry that we have to end it there. Chris, thank you for coming in. Vicky Ford, thank you for joining us there from Central.